Okay, welcome everyone. It's really nice to see you all gathered again. It's been a while. So Trish has kindly offered this space free of charge today, and she's been busy all day with several others, little angel helpers, Christiana, Graham, Lainey. So I just want to take the opportunity to thank all of them, because it wouldn't have been possible. You know, they've just given so much. They've been baking and all sorts. So Trish has a wonderful afternoon tea organised, and she's also offered a meal this evening. So if anyone wants to stay back for that and participate in that, then you're more than welcome. So Trish operates this cafe by donation. So for those who do want to support her, she does have a donation box just on the table at the back there. So if you wanted to show your gratitude for that. So on the subject of donations, I'm so close to that camera. Lena and Igor have also come here obviously and gifted their time to us to make the resource available online, as they do with their giving hearts. So they haven't got a donation box because they're naughty. Igor just pointed to his pocket. But there is online details where you can donate and just make it possible for them to continue the work that they do in making these sort of resources available to everyone, because it's just awesome what they do. On the subject of donations, Denny has a donation box here also, and 50% of those donations will be going back to the Divine Truth organisation, back to the work that AJ and Mary are doing. So I believe that's contributing to Kenya at the moment. And okay, on the subject of recording, go back to that. Does anybody not want to go on YouTube? Does anyone not feel comfortable with having themselves filmed and uploaded on YouTube? Is everyone okay with that? I'm feeling a yes from everyone. Okay, cool. So anyone that does not want that to happen, the couch is sort of the spot where Lena has said it won't be video. So unless you really want to be videoed there, that's fine. And the other thing is too, if Lena has asked if you could just consider, because we have the second camera there, which Igor is manning, for questions. So we haven't got microphones today. Because it's a small space, we're just picking it up through the camera mics. So if you could just, when you do raise your hand and Denny acknowledges the question, just give it a few moments until the camera does find you. If you could sort of just keep that in mind, that awareness, it just makes it a lot easier with the cutting and that process. And to speak up too, so that we can pick you up on the camera mics. That'd be great. Okay, so I hand you over to Denny. This man doesn't really need an introduction with his group. So he's come all the way from Brazil. So let's give Denny Johnson a really warm welcome.
To take a moment just to see and feel all of you. I feel like I'm walking out of a dream into a reality, because I've seen so many of you before on video, and now look, you're here. What a sweet thing. First, I want to say thank you for being here and giving me this opportunity to do what I love. And I'd like to share with you the feeling and the passion of it. And I'd like to explain to you how I got into this eventually. I've made a commitment to Mary to explain how I got into this, which I was asked that question in Brazil and did not respond fully. So I'd like to tell you how I got into this. Not right now, but maybe later if you remind me. And I'd like to also set some principles or intention about this. I know that some of you believe that you've come here that I might be able to help you in some way, and perhaps that happens. I'm really hoping you can help me. I've come here as much to learn from you as to give you what I know, because I could use some help. The reality is I don't know if I've ever actually experienced a causal feeling, and I'm looking for how. So I'm examining every detail and nuance, and I'm praying daily and asking to be shown how to feel, how to discover, how to love more, how to learn to be alive. And I'd like to be able to do it so well that the structure of my eye does change. When I know from my many years of the iris that it doesn't change easily, I'd like to be able to change it and then offer to the world how to do that. When I was in Brazil, AJ set the bar pretty high in private talks and in public ones at times about being able to use the eye as an instrument for navigating people to their souls, and then to be able to help them know how to clean the iris using divine truth. So I'm asking you to consider that with your help, that might be realized. So I'm going to start with showing you what I like to do. May I? You take your glasses off for me? Yeah. Let me tell you the attitude I have about one person's iris. For me, from the very beginning, it's been about the cathedral of God. So I'm going to look into the cathedral of God and see one soul. This one soul is absolutely unique. It's only one of a kind. I've never been in there before, and I would like to feel, experience, and love this one soul just a little tiny bit more. If I can know him just a little bit, then I have the opportunity to feel him. Oh, by the way, this light makes it easier for people because it looks like it's technical and looks like I'm actually right. I'm going to hear using, but really it's more about this, right? It's a wow. There you have it. What I just did was to look at the basic constitutional structure of his iris, and from that constitutional structure have a good feeling about how he lives in the world, how his body moves, because there's a constitutional structure that reveals how his body functions. The iris is about the body. It's also about elements about how he processes information, whether he learns most by hearing or by watching. But most of all, it shows me the quality for which he lives in the world. What I like to do is feel him enough to go with him a little bit. I like to step in and I like to not just be an observer of a soul, I like to be someone who experiences it. Man? I should probably tell you, it might make you a little bit strange if you do this, because it does make you a little sensitive to everything afterwards. You know, I've done this for, well, and sometimes I giggle. Sometimes I say, oh my God. I've been known to say almost anything, right? I have to tell you, it's just an absolute... It's like to do that tens of thousands of times. And I never tire of it. I really don't. It's just a joy, actually. I have to be honest with you, I have never considered myself an iridologist because I've had no classical training in the science or art of iridology. It didn't come to me that way, and I have never gone into the iris to start there by looking for problems or difficulties. For me, it's like literally a communion. It's a, wow, this is a single facet of one aspect of God's love. Just a single pure line of creation. And only that one is exactly like that one. They're never the same. And they're just absolutely beautiful. I've had the opportunity to do this in hospitals. I've had the opportunity to do this in delivery rooms with babies because I had this, I want to know. So I arranged to go into the delivery room and to actually photograph some infants just after they were born to see what's there, what isn't there. And it really began to enrich my experience of what the eye is about. Something utterly sacred, precious, and alive. I spent a period of time where I was given the opportunity to work with a group of doctors, and we used the structure of the eye to see if we could understand why certain infants were born with some form of crippling structure. So I began to make wall maps of irises. So I have put together 5 generations of families at times, just using the structure of the iris. And I used to live alone in a small apartment, and I had 4 projectors on different walls, and I would walk around just looking and looking and looking. And I actually, the old projectors have these little bulbs on them where you wear them out after a while. I actually spent more on bulbs than I did my rent. I did this a lot. I spent about 7 years once examining the structure of the eye and mapping individual little positions. And my way of learning, I had an unusual way to learn many years ago. I was, slightly demanding. I've learned some patience now. I have patience, not much. But when I was younger, I had less, and I used to be quite insistent about certain things. And I was claiming a promise. Ask, and you shall receive. So I want to know. No, I want to know now. I've waited 2 hours, I want the answer. The next day I would ask again, and I would ask again, and I would ask again. And I was at that time quite insistent. I believe you made this promise that you would help me if I asked. So now I want that promise fulfilled. Okay. Much of the time it wasn't exactly a pure desire. It was, anyway, it was my own way of getting to the answer. But what I found is that sooner or later the answer would come. And when it did come, it was not always easy to experience or to remember or to comprehend. I've asked many different things. So I'm going to share with you one experience I had when I asked. I was trying to do my best to arrange the structure of the irises in a sequence, because for me the iris is not just an individual moment in time, it's a sequence through the experience of a family. So I was looking for the sequence of irises that would relate to experiences also in nature. So I was attempting to relate the structure of the iris to a sequence of times of the day. So I was asking, show me how the iris corresponds to the times of the day. For me, each time of the day has a specific quality or feeling or the opportunity to learn something. It has something. So I did this in my usual insistent kind of way for about 2 years. Then one day, I'm in Brazil with my then wife, and we were at the Sao Paulo airport. And just so you know, Sao Paulo is the capital city, and it has the entire population of Australia in one city. It has about 20 million people in one city. It is a huge city, and the airport is like a giant anthill. And if you don't speak Portuguese, there's a good chance you're not going to end up at the right gate. Well, needless to say, we were not at the right gate. So we had to hurry. When we hurried to the location, you had to go out the door, and there was a large bus about ready to leave, which was completely full, except for one door that was open in the back, where I had to take my rather delicate wife, who does not like being handled, and encourage her to get into the thus full bus, and then with the luggage, and then with me. I went in, the door closed, and I'm in this sardine can of Brazilians. Well, you have to know the Brazilians, but they're very friendly, but they're usually not this friendly. All of a sudden, my inner vision opened inside of my mind, whatever you want to call it, my being, my soul, something so utterly, radiantly clear opened. And I got to see all of the times of the day and their exact corresponding relationship to a sequence of irises, and how each time of the day had a different quality of feeling, a lesson, a whole series of things, phases of the moon, the years of a person's life from 0 to 64, every month of the year was there. There was more in that 1 or 2 second moment than I could ever comprehend. Ribbons of colors and music, and the whole sequence of the day was laid out. And when it was over, I could remember maybe 1%, but I got the answer. So gradually, I started putting together what this map looked like, and I ended up with a specific sequence of all of the qualities from the 12 midnight to 12 midday were 6 different qualities of irises, family patterns, and lessons that exactly corresponded to the sequence of suns. By that I mean brothers. So there was a sequence of masculine forces as the sun was rising, and there were 3 before sunrise and 3 after sunrise, and they were exact locations inside the body. What I'm saying is that all of the experiences of the iris that you have, and the lessons that I learned throughout the day, is that all of the glands and organs and systems and nerves and everything inside my body is exactly corresponding to sequences of patterns in nature. So everything here was mirrored in the experiences of nature. Then I began to slowly realize that the sequence had a series of gates. And these gates were opened by a series of experiences that I needed to learn. And the first experience was an experience of how to soften myself. I realized that this was the first entry from where I was at night into the day was a place that corresponds to the breath, the lung meridian, inspiration, and the relationship to God. So that my first place I needed to feel and experience was my relationship to God. In the process of doing this, I had to learn how, in some form or another, to soften myself enough to be able to receive it. And I called it humility. The very next one, the sequence after this, there was an exact lesson to be learned. And it was completely different in its quality or texture, because the texture of what it does is very different than the first one. So for example, the first one had a lot to do with the experience of the lung and the breath and inspiration. The second sequence, I called it clarity. That's where I started. Clarity became truth, and the understanding of what truth is. So I recognized that if my truth was not linked to my breath, and my breath was not linked to my source of divine love, then my truth would become distorted. So I needed to keep my truth linked through humility to my divine source. Then the next sequence, I called it free will. Well, I examined this, worked on this, felt this, did many different things to try and learn this, begged to learn more. Then one day, a video arrived. First, I didn't even recognize the person who sent it. And normally I get these things and I just chuck it out, but I opened this one up. And I started watching this video. And within minutes, I had a profound experience. Because this man that was speaking on the video was exactly describing this octaves higher than me. And in that moment, what happened to me was a feeling inside of me. For the first time in my life, I felt humility. I'm a little bit embarrassed, and that I have to recognize, even though I've lived a long time, this was the first time I felt humility. And I recognized before that time my own personal arrogance was the problem based on my own fear that was blocking my capacity to be able to feel reality. So in the middle of all of this, I felt, at first it wasn't so much about the man, it was about where he was linked to. And I felt myself just feel it. I was so deeply altered in that one single moment. It has continued to be with me. I have a long, long ways to go to understand what that really means, how it feels. But I learned so much in those first few moments by having that living experience for the first time. Now I have to take the responsibility to be able to do that more on my own, and how that works. So I do my best to try and learn the things I've learned. And I gotta tell you, it's not easy to walk into this group. Come on, you gotta recognize this is not easy. To walk in here with many of you who've been practicing and experiencing and learning for years. And I'm like your little brother, right? I come in here and I'm going, hello. Well, I got to tell you, it's not easy to be out there in the woods somewhere. It's trying to speak to people about these sacred principles through a translator, not always being sure that they're saying the right things or the other person's getting it. It's been a real challenge. This is the first time in 2 years I've had the opportunity to actually do something like this in English. So if I slip into Portuguese occasionally, be patient with me. It's been a real challenge. So back to the irises. For me, the sequences I was describing to you, they are a sequence of iris types. So I recognize that certain people have certain types of lessons, but there are universal lessons. For example, the sequence between humility and truth and free will, which I learned from AJ, it's about desire. I had not used the word desire before, so now I use the word desire. The free will is the capacity to experience through the truth the receiving of inspiration to choose a pathway. What I mean by that is the experience of my individual ability to come into the world I used to call life purpose. What is my life purpose? Now I recognize that that's what is my passion. Because at the moment of the sunrise is the moment of the beginning of the passion. Because in my own experience from the metaphor, that the hours before sunrise have to do with this quality of internal softness. But when I finally make a choice based on my own free will, it sets in motion the increase of the light and the day. So it corresponds with the rising of the force that moves through my heart and eventually arrives in the middle of my brain. So, I wrote a letter to AJ, and I said, look, I need to ask you something. Because after this video, I can't go anywhere without talking about you. So, is it okay that if I use some of the information I learned from you and put it out there? And he wrote back in a very kind way and said, divine truth doesn't belong to me. Do what you can. Okay, well, he set me free, and I have to tell you, my life changed completely. Because before that time, I used to do 4 seminars a month, and I used to do many consultations every week, and I charged for everything, and now I changed. I didn't charge for consultations anymore, I didn't charge for classes anymore, and the funny thing is that people stopped coming. And then I started talking about AJ and Mary. All right, you. Oh yes, sure, you know Jesus. Oh yeah, right. Okay, Jesus is back and he lives in Australia, right? I'm not sure if it's easier being Jesus, telling someone he's Jesus, or someone. It's not easy. I'm sure some of you felt the same thing, right? Well, oddly enough, about 70% of my friends and clients and students just laughed and walked away. And then my life just, what am I going to do with all of this? And so I ended up developing a whole different way of working. So then I, in the email, said, well, if you ever happen to just be in the direction of Brazil, you're welcome to drop in. Well, lo and behold, here they come. Well, come on. Jesus and Mary are coming for a visit, right? How would you feel? Jesus and Mary are coming to your hometown, right? So I go out and start to tell the classes that they're coming, and well, another 20% left. So by the time they got there, the classes were, well, smaller than I was familiar with. And we were hoping to get, 100, 150. We got about 60 or 70. And some of them go, oh, wait a minute, they're normal. I don't know, maybe they were expecting them to be dressed in a particular way, acting a particular way, saying certain things. I'd have to say maybe 1 person in 10 really linked in and got it. Maybe 1 person in 10. Some of them were so deeply touched, they will be practicing and learning for a very long time. Some of them were so utterly disturbed and angry that they walked away, and I don't know if they'll ever come back or ever speak to me again. It just had all these wide variety of reactions. How do you live in the middle of that? So I ended up with lots of different kinds of questions. I mean, how do you answer questions that you have no idea how to answer? Because I found myself in the middle of doing the work I love about the iris, trying to explain divine truth. So how do you do this? I'm not entirely sure. So at times I just quit. Right before, you know, AJ got there, I quit. I'm confused, I'm lost, I'm hurt, I'm upset, I'm angry, I don't know what to do next. I'm just a trembling mass of nothing, right? I mean, before the experience with AJ and the humility, I was on this burning mission to save the world. You know, I've been on that. Some of you, I bet, probably been there too. But I've been on that desire to go out there and, you know, make a difference in the world for, 35 years. And I quit. That's it. I'm done. This guy's going to handle it. Not me. I'm through. Right? He's got the instruments. I don't. That's it. I'm done. I'm going to go walk the dog, grow sunflowers. Quit. I quit. Well, and I was absolutely just nervous to catch these guys at the airport, right? And I met them, and they walked off the plane, and my heart just melted, and they were sweet. It was a wonderful opportunity to be with them, to spend 3 weeks with them. You know, some of you probably know this. Well, pretty sure that AJ and Mary know exactly where all my blemishes are. Because, a couple times, well, one very prominent time, AJ stripped me down to the bone and showed me all of my individual characteristics and lessons I had to learn, all the feelings, my relationship to my father, my mother, and, the women in the world. And there was nothing I could say but, because it was all true. I mean, it's one thing to go, that's not true, but it's all true. It's exactly all true. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be stripped down to the bone and examined in public, right? And I'm not done. So I'm hoping to be able to have that opportunity again and to learn. So now I would like to take you through a journey of the eyes. I'd like to show you what I look at. And then in a few minutes we'll take a break. And I've got these lights that you saw me using. And I would like you to take an opportunity to use a light 3 or 4 times and go look at your brothers and sisters. Go take a moment to just look. You're not required to understand what you're looking at. In fact, sometimes I think you're better off if you don't know. If you go in there without any sense of belief system, or it should be this or that, just go in and feel them. Look at somebody, both eyes, and then hand the light to them and let them look at you. So there's 4 of these here, and you're welcome to use them. I'd like you to have that direct experience of it. So now I'm going to show you what I look at in the eyes. You ready? You can do it on manual. Do it on manual. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions anytime, that was easy. Yes.
Sorry, I'm waiting for the microphone. Why Brazil?
Why Brazil? Wow. Why Brazil? when I was 20 or 25 or 30, if I ever thought I could plan my life, I had no idea what was coming. So why Brazil? I'd never even thought of Brazil before. But when I was about 38, I was invited to speak at a medical school in Brazil. And one thing led to the next, and I was traveling constantly from city to city, working with groups of children and families, and I just never stopped. So the Brazilians have been a blessing for me. Their culture is a naturally spontaneous, feeling-oriented type. They are playful, delightful. They're like trying to herd a bunch of playful children. They're always engaged in some activity. And when I landed there, I got kissed on both cheeks, and it was like, you know, stop. Right? After a while, you know, I would land in Miami and no one would kiss me. And I missed it. Right? And I realized that those Americans are pretty stiff, right? Right? And they helped me open my feelings in my heart, really. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to feel them. I was blessed with the opportunity to constantly move from city to city through one particular organization, and where I would sit down in the forest with 2 translators, and the lines never ended. And there were lines of families that would come. So I had the opportunity to examine family after family after family, and to do just what I did here, and use the light and sit down with mother and father and their sometimes 12 or 14 kids, and try to say something about each of them in a few seconds and go to the next family. It was a giant massage mechanism for me to open up my capacity to feel, because and I've done this several times, I might as well do it with you. I wish to openly apologize and ask you to forgive me, because the truth is, many years ago I didn't like any of you, and I had some uncomfortable feelings about, I'm classifying you as in all people. I didn't like people because they were insane. They bomb and kill and maim and poison and pollute, and they do war and religions and everything else I don't like, and it's all made by people. So I was in a place where I didn't care if I really spent any time with them or not. So I had a really bad attitude about people, and I now am doing my best to learn the opposite. I want to learn how to be able to appreciate and feel. If it's just one person at a time, then it's one person at a time. So that's what I do. Brazil was wonderful about that. I also had a series of experiences while there that began to open up the other aspects of this work. So they became my teachers. And I feel that way about everywhere I go. Every iris, every person is my teacher. I just need to feel them. I can just let them touch me, then I'm going to learn something. You thought this was for you. You ready? So some of you may have a difficult time seeing that from the back, but do your best. If you need to stand up or look around, feel free. And I'm just going to take you through the structure of the eye. Obviously there is the pupil and the iris and the sclera. When I look in here, what I'm looking for is the general structure of the constitution of the eye. Let's go to the next one, see if we can go lighter. see this person? Are you here?
Yes, he is. Oh no, sorry. No,
He's not?
He's not. It's Gary.
Take a journey. Let me help you. I know it looks like that the iris is in the head. I've never thought of it that way. The iris for me is not in the head. I think of standing in the pupil and the iris is around me. So when I look at an iris, I'm really looking at what's around a person. You know, so for me, it's not just physical system. Yes, this is all the different locations in the body from the head down to the bottom. This is from the trunk of the body to the head. And the positions on the outside of the eye are the front of the body, and the positions on the inside of the eye are the back of the body. That's pretty easy, right? But what you think of it about body is, I've always thought of it as the things I carry with me. So it's an energy around the body. It's whatever you want to call it. I used to call it the emotional body. I didn't refer to it as the spiritual body, but now for me it's okay, it corresponds to the spiritual body. This is a reflection of things that happen in the spiritual body. But deeper than this, in the structure, when you examine it, it's about what the soul patterns are also. So the patterns in the physical body are a reflection of the patterns in the spiritual body, which are a reflection of the patterns in the soul. So, to me, this is the soul, in some way a reflection of the energy around me, and also places or little pockets of feelings inside me. But it also has a way this person moves into the world. Now, let me ask you, can you see that this person is a bubble machine? Come on. Bubble machine. What I mean by that is they like bubbles, right? Now, if you were to play with it, could you just step in and make bubbles? Come on, you have to have a little feeling in this. You have to feel it rather than just look at it with your head. So try to feel it for a second. That's more important than anything you think you understand. Feel what this person does. Go for a trip with them. How do they respond? So this is a type of person that likes to go through the world making bubbles. This is also somebody that sometimes is called spatial perception. They have a spatial perception, and their mind works in the form of images. So they think in pictures rather than thoughts. So they're always thinking about pictures, and sometimes the pictures are very specific. Each one of these is a different form of picture. Each one of these is a different form of emotion. Each one of these is a different form of memory. And all of this combined affects what the physical body looks like. Next. Come on, you're going to practice a little something different today. Okay, now all you have to do is change your feeling. Okay, think of it this way. You have a garden hose. Most of you have water hoses, right? And you have little nozzles on the end. All you're doing is changing the nozzle. You're just changing the spray pattern on the hose. That's all it is. Every iris to me is divine life is flowing through it, and what is their spray pattern? What's this person now? Can you feel the difference in the spray pattern of this person, right? They're like, aha, aha, aha. They like to do this thing, right? Got that? Yeah. And sometimes that's how they get in trouble, right? They do this thing with their own capacity, little brown dots, right? Let's go to the next one. Just spray patterns, that's all it is. So when you experience it from inside the person, try not to be just the observer. Now, this is not as easy to see, but okay, different spray pattern, right? Can you see how the shape is different? Some of them are not completely round. Some of them are different places. There's a greater dominance to one position or the other. You have the feeling of it? Do you see how this one also has this color to the inside? So their spray pattern kind of goes out and in. It folds, it moves. Now each one of them has a a different form of body movement. They use different gestures. They use different postures. They literally sit differently. So after a while, you notice that there are body types. Each one has a different way it uses words. They use words that might do an ah or an o, an e. So each one of these is different shapes. Got the feeling of it? Let's go to the next one. Can you do that? Let me just ask you, can you go into it? Now remember, each one of the constitutional types has a universal quality all of us are learning. So all souls have universal lessons that we are all learning. These are oftentimes reflected in the constitutional structure. For example, this constitutional structure, by constitution I mean the diameter of the lines and the actual size of them is fine or bigger. How many layers are there? How dense are they? If you just go to the structure for a second, this is what's called a body-aware postural type. They actually are more in their physical body. Now notice where the concentration of color is. It's more to the inside. So their experience for the world is in here, down. Right? Later you will find out that each one of these locations, there are a series of rings. These rings relate to the sequence of lessons that correspond to 6 different levels. These 6 different levels correspond to the rings, but they also correspond to positions in the body. For example, this is in the bottom of the body. That's easy. The very bottom of the trunk of the body in the back. So it's going to be down in the body, in this realm, deep inside. So most of you recognize some of the primary lessons that correspond to level number 1. This is level number 1. In level number 1, there are glands and organs. These glands and organs, they correspond to the unresolved feelings that that person either acquired at conception or experienced and acquired after birth. So these are long-term memories of what the person is bringing with them that now becomes the pattern of their spray pattern. Their spray pattern now brings to them other people according to the design they make. Next. If you have a question, shoot it at me. Okay, it's just another pattern. Loudly.
Does the color mean the different chakras or have mean something? Particularly when there's 2 colors? What does that?
Does the color mean the chakras, or does the color mean anything?
Yes.
Yes.
What?
Does the color mean anything? Yes, yes, yes. Everything means everything. Right? Yes. Everything means everything. That answers the question. Yes. The color of this, the color here, the shape, the pattern. Yes.
So
Yes.
a blue eye compared to a green eye, is that?
Well, you see, now you're getting into controversial realms. The blue eye versus the green eye versus the brown. Right? Okay. You see, when I first started on the eyes, and well, a long time ago, the basic way that the iris was considered is that all eyes were blue at birth, and that if you had any brown, it means that you were toxic of some kind. Well, by the way, it's not true. Just so you know. It's just not true. And I've gotten in trouble a few times with saying, it's just not true. Right? And it's like the original way that the iris was taught was that if you did the right herbs and did the right number of colonics and you did the right things, that all of this would clean out and you'd be a blue-eyed person and you're fine. Not true. Not true. I wished it were true at times, but I wish it were that easy, but it's not, right? So back to the kids, I started photographing kids year after year to see what actually arrived and when it arrived and how. Learned a lot. So we can talk about the color another time. Next, let's just do spray patterns. I like spray patterns. All right. You're right there. Who's this? Nice to meet you. Can I walk with you? By that I mean this feeling-oriented experience. So what I notice is that generally speaking, you're she does a this. Oh, and occasionally a that. That's here. Right. Okay. That's right. I wasn't going to do positions right now, but I couldn't resist. You have the difference in the feeling of it? So these individual positions, they describe what you like to react to the most. They're habits. They're standing wave patterns that create your own law of attraction. And you'll experience this pattern like over and over again. Now there are patterns of the general constitution that have a series of lessons that come because of the constitution, and then there's a series of lessons that come because of individual positions. Next. Shall we? No. Is this?
That's Natalie. She's not here.
She's not here. We shouldn't talk about Natalie. Is she divine truth? Well, for me, there's free will and there's transparency and I can relate to her. I have almost identically the same spot. So let me just tell you about my spot. That's fair. That's fair, right? This happens to be, by the way, the right eye. The right eye of the person. Now, the right eye of the person is primarily the attitude you have about father, masculinity, and anything that gets big, like banks, governments. Well, anyway, you understand, right? So authority issues are over here, self-worth issues, a whole bunch of things over here in the quality of how you meet masculinity and your relationships to men. Now, I happen to have this pattern here. I had a very severe, difficult relationship, and the honest truth is I hated my father. I mean, when I was a child, it was so difficult and hard to be there. I didn't receive recognition, love, self-worth. I could give you a long list of suffering-oriented experiences just to say I've got that same spot. And by the way, if you're not busy, I would like to change it. So if all of you could just, like breathe and feel and exhale, pray, whatever you do, and help me feel my feelings there, I'd be delighted. Are we done? Did I tell you I was patient? A little bit. Do you like the spray pattern on this one? It's different. It has a different quality because every place that it goes really tells you where the person likes to go. For example, this person has a tendency to go out. Any of you have a tendency to go out? I do. Next. We're just going to do a couple more and then we'll take a break. So who's this? Okay, I will be kind.
Don't go for it.
I want to be kind. You see the density and the small fibers. You know, sometimes come on up. This is what I invite you to do. You don't have to. I invite you to come up and take a close look. Now, if I could, it would be in a big theater with, you know, two eyes side by side, and you'd walk up to your own eye. And have you ever done this before?
No.
No, isn't this cool? Take a look. Wow. Isn't this like, wow. Can you feel yourself a little bit? You see how these little lines are fine, but they're almost powdery in some places, but they're dense. This says that you are a, well, hug type person, a body person. Like this is a person who has a tactile tendency. This goes to the inside, shows where it goes. We could describe what each one of these little positions means and how it affects you, but we're not going to do that right now. I just wanted you to have an experience of yourself. Now you can ask about what this means.
What's it?
No, not me.
Oh, for myself.
No. I would suggest you ask somebody else.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that.
You have?
Yeah.
But sometimes it helps to be specific.
Yeah.
I've done this before. I want to know about this identical, this.
I want to know that.
You want to know about
I wanna know
that?
about that.
Don't ask me. Thank you. Okay, now
That's
that you.
the left eye.
That's the left eye. Yes, this is a feeling-oriented experience that your mother acquired, transmitted to you, and it's just your basic average terror.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
I'm terrified to be alone.
we could go for the implications of what it means relative to all these other positions and this one and that one, and it's your basic stuff. Right? You have a feeling of it?
Yeah, I'm terrified. That feeling in there. Is that
So yeah, I mean, yes. Yeah.
terrified? Yeah, thank you.
No, I can need it. Go on. I would like to take the time for every single one of you to have both eyes up at the same time, have this experience, take a look, feel, and know how to ask some basic questions. Okay, help me out here. Because there's some things that I feel, and I haven't really had the time to ask AJ, and I don't really want to bother him all the time. I think that sometimes what he's shown me is, oh, you have a question, get the answer yourself. Oh, you want to do something? Do it yourself. Oh, okay, I get the message now. So if I can't ask him, I'm going to come ask you. So you get it myself? Okay, this is my way of getting it, all right? My way of getting it is, wait a second, one of the things I've recognized about the iris is that every iris is like a fingerprint. There are no two eyes are the same, and the right eye is different than the left. That's what you'll see. They're all clearly different, so that every soul is absolutely individual in their composition. And this individuality is one of the primary lessons that comes up for me. The thing I've always said to people is, first you have to be yourself. First you have to be willing to accept that you are a unique soul. And I used to say, are you God's favorite daughter? God's favorite son? You are. And yes, you are. Pardon me, but yes, you are. Because he didn't make two of you. Yes, you are. You're God's favorite blessed son. And he just loves the dickens out of you, and you're cool, and that relationship is eternal. Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
Right. I like it too. That level of individuality, that level of first be an individual, and then recognize, according to the basic science of how it works, you have the right to ask. You have the right to say, yes, I want to know the truth about me. Yes, I want to know. I want to receive your divine love, because before the individuality is actualized, there's really not the opportunity to say, come. You have to be willing to ask before, okay, help me out here. True or not true? Right? So part of what I do with the iris first is do exactly what we just did. Know yourself, feel yourself, come up here and examine, feel who you are. Start with what's inside you, your own iris, and begin to feel it, recognize it, and then ask, show me what this means. Help me understand what this causal feeling is. Show me this gift, this lesson, this place in my body, and help me realize what I am and who I am and what I do to hurt myself and others. Fair enough? One more. This is how I do divine truth with the iris. And it's just simply the best I can do. Is this somebody here?
It's busy.
Ah, that's too bad. I wanted to play with this one. Okay, let me ask you this. How consistent and steady is she? Can you see that? Can you feel that she's just kind of consistent and steady and kind of out there? You got that? Now, I would like to be able to do that. If I could do this type of composition, you know what that means? She reminds me of a giant, solid, ancient tree. Doing, Qigong with branches. Right? I'd like to learn to do that. Because what that means is that she has the capacity to be in her body with vitality, feel it right down to her toenails. She feels life through her body, and then she distributes it in some form or another. I like this. I'd like to take her for a walk. Because this is a different kind of... Let's do one more. We have to get somebody who's here, right? Let's just do one more. Ah, here's a... Who's this? Oh, that was a good one for crucifixion. Please. Who's this? Next one. Are you getting the hang of it?
Yeah.
Can you go into it? Really? Wait. Yeah. Is there a Joyce? Joyce! Oh, Joyce! You have free will. You can say no. Come. Please. Okay. All right. While she's coming up, is she a spatial perception type or a rooted, grounded tree type? Come on. Oh. Come on. Touch this. See all this? Isn't that nice? Did you ever know you were that beautiful? Wow. Do you have the feeling of this? You ever seen your eye like this before? We could talk a long time. This is a reflection from the light. That's an artifact. These three little artifacts. It'd be nice if you had a bunch of those, wouldn't it? I like those. The feeling of it? Thank you. So at this point, now that you... Yes, ma'am?
I actually have two questions. The second one depends on the first. Did you do Mary and AJ's irises? So,
Did I do them? Did I look at them?
feel them? Yeah, look at them.
Yes, I did.
And therefore, could you see soulmate relationship through the eyes?
You know, before I speak too much about them, I would like to respect their right to privacy. And if they were here, I would ask them and do all that stuff.
I just mean, can you see a relationship soulmate through the eyes in anyone in general?
Well, it would certainly help if I knew mine. And the answer to that is, yeah, probably. But I'm not sure. There's a lot in the eye I don't know. Maybe I know 2 or 3% about the iris, and there's a lot more. There's a lot more that's still to come. I would say I had a wonderful time looking at their eyes. We had some rather remarkable moments of deep personal feeling experience, and I feel like because of the opportunity to look at their eyes, I know them a little better. For me, from my experience of doing this, to really examine somebody deeply is to know them, to feel them, helps me actually touch, receive, understand, have compassion a little more, judge less. Yes, it was delightful. Other questions? So we're going to take a 15-minute break, thereabouts. I believe that there is some drinks in the back. Yes, dear.
Trish has some scones
In the oven. I mean, they're going to come out like warm and yummy. Okay. All of you wait here. Here. The lights are here. And I will also be looking around. You, please feel free to use them. Just to give you an idea, there's a little button on the side. Put your thumb on it, and then just come from the outside, and then get close enough to look, and you can just find the focus, and it's real easy. Ready? All right, thanks. Who else? I was about to throw, but she just, it was really close. Just really close. So 15 minutes. Also, if you want to see your own, there's this other one. Please, you can just put it up to your cheek like this. And there's a little button, there's a light, you just kind of get here. If you want to go toward the window, you can actually see more.